What if your one decision could change the rest of history forever? Imagine having everything you could ever want: a perfect garden, perfect peace, a perfect spouse, perfect animals, everything you can ever dream of. But one moment of doubt took it all away and cost you everything, to the point that your entire lineage or generations that came after you had to suffer or struggle because of that one decision. This is the story of Eve, the first woman, the first to unfortunately fall. Let me tell you a bit about Eve. Eve was the first woman ever created by God. She was actually taken out of Adam's rib. She wasn't like created like Adam was created, She was taken out of Adam's rib. She was actually handcrafted, sculpted by God with intention, to be a man's woman, to actually be a co-ruler with Adam in the Garden of Eden. She walked in paradise in perfect harmony with her creator, the creation, everything in the garden was hers and her husband's. And in the Garden of Eden, there was no pain, there was no struggle, there was no stress of life, like having to wake up early morning, catching the bus, going to work. There was nothing like that. Just pure, unfiltered joy. Imagine a world where food was abundant, love untainted, like everything was just easy to get, easy to reach. Such a world would be really fun to be in, don't you think so? That was actually her reality until one conversation changed the entire story, changed this reality for her. Eve had one command: do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That was a simple command, right? Do not eat. They said don't touch it. Don't eat this particular thing. You can have everything in the garden. You can eat all the animals. You can eat everything. But do not touch this particular tree. Is that not simple? Very simple, right? But here is where things get real. It was actually a simple command, but then one day she met somebody. A voice slithered into her mind, and the voice said, if you want to be the chief, the Oga, the Odogu Parara, you have to touch this fruit. You have to eat it. It is really nice. It is really sweet. And that voice started raising doubts. That voice started questioning the command that she had been given, about not touching that tree. And that voice was Satan. He didn't attack her. He didn't come and force her like, oh, you have to touch this tree. You have to touch this. You have to eat this fruit. He actually just raised questions about what God had commanded Eve and her husband not to do. And he raised doubts. He raised concerns in Eve's head. Eve started questioning that authority. Eve started questioning God's authority, started questioning the command that God had given her. All he said was, did God really say? And just like that, Eve questioned everything. That was very sad. She saw the fruit. It looked good. It looked harmless. It looked beautiful. Apple was calling her. And with just one bite, she stepped into a new reality that opened her eyes into things that she was actually not supposed to see. One filled with shame, struggle, separation from her creator, and all the beautiful things she had access to. She eventually lost the garden, she lost the relationship with her creator, she lost the ease of life, and most importantly, she introduced sin into the world with just one decision. I'm going to share with you 3 lessons that you need to learn from this story that I've just told you. See, there is power in conversations. One conversation can change your life. One conversation with that friend, one conversation with that partner, it can change your life for good or for evil. People have had conversations with others, and those conversations have turned their lives into being millionaires, while others still have had conversations with people and their marriages have gotten broken. Choose the kind of conversations you choose to have with people. Decide if that one conversation you have with somebody is going to make or unmake you. Number 2, doubt is the enemy's greatest weapon. See, the Bible has got everything we need. But the thing with the enemy is that he comes into your mind and he doesn't force you. Let's say the enemy slitters and then tells you, oh, have you seen that lady? Is she not nice? Do you want to go into bed with her? See her curves, see all these things. The enemy does not force you. As Christians, we need to know this. Once you begin doubting the word of God, once you begin doubting what has been given to you as a manual to walk this life, that is when you're allowing the enemy to get into your life. The enemy will not force you to fornicate. The enemy will not force you to go and steal. The enemy will only put doubt in your head, will only make you question God's authority. And as soon as he begins doing that, you need to stop him. You need to let him know that, see, I am not allowing this to work in my life like it worked in Eve's life, you know. Once you begin entertaining the enemy's doubts, that is when you go ahead to make decisions that are not conformable to the word of God. And these decisions will have very dire consequences that you might not want. The third and the most important lesson: choices have consequences. Eve had a choice to eat that fruit. She had a choice to take that apple, grab it, throw it away, or eat it. She chose to eat that apple, even though she had been told clearly not to touch that tree, you know. Choices do have consequences. Everything that you do in this life, every choice that you make in this life does have consequences. And so you need to think about it through and through and through again before you actually take that choice or make that decision about whatever circumstance or whatever situation that you're in. As a 21st century woman, how can you apply Eve's story to your life? I think Eve's story is every woman's story. We have thoughts coming into our head every day, every night about things, about decisions that we want to take, about our parenting, about our relationship, about our marriages, about our personal relationship with God, about basically everything. How often do we listen to the voices that plant doubt in our lives? Did God really say this? Why don't you do this? Do you think this is good? Those tiny voices that you know clearly does not align with what God says, does not align with the right things, does not align with what you know in your heart is good. And the enemy says, are you really good enough? One little compromise won't hurt. If you settle for this man, you are fine. Don't worry, there are no other guys that are good out there. If you commit this little sin, it won't hurt. One compromise won't hurt. Are you really good enough? Do you think he loves you enough? Have you got enough self-worth? These are little voices that causes us to doubt and not trust what God has said concerning our lives. Eve teaches us that small decisions, small choices that we make can have lasting consequences on us. They can have very lasting consequences, not just on us. It can even extend to our children and our children's children. And so are we going to sit there and allow the voice of doubt take over, influence our decisions, influence what God says we are, who God says we are, and the power and authority that we have been given as children of God? But here's the good news. Just as one woman's decision brought the downfall of man, brought sin into the world, another woman's decision also brought us good news. And if you need more of this, I'm going to talk about the next woman whose decision brought us amazing, blessed good news. Today, listen, are you going to let that voice of doubt stop you from being a go-getter, stop you from pursuing your dreams, stop you from being that beautiful wife, that godly mother, whatever that your ambitions or whatever that God has laid on your heart? Are you going to let that small voice tell you to doubt yourself, tell you to look down on yourself and settle for less? You don't have to do that. Will you listen to the voice of doubt, or will you trust what God says concerning you? Think about this. Catch you in my next video. Bye.